Welcome! In this video, I show you how to use floating UI to create common types of floating UI. We will create a floating health bar, a waypoint marker, and a text label. Let's see these in action. If I move the camera, you can see both the health bar and the text label follow the capsule. And the waypoint marker, in blue, follows the shape in the back. If I move the camera over a little bit more, you can see the waypoint marker is visible even through the block in front of it. But the health bar and text label disappear when the capsule is not visible anymore. If I rotate the capsule, you can see that the health bar stays above the capsule, but the label is always pointing towards the bottom of the capsule. So this is what we want to achieve. Let's start with the waypoint. First, we will create the UI for the waypoint marker. For that, we go to Create, UI Toolkit, and create a new UI document, waypoint. Then we open it up in the UI builder. First, we go to Project, Floating UI, and create a floating UI visual element. After that, we go here and create a visual element as a child to this element. This will be our waypoint marker. We go over and give it a size 10 by 10 pixels, and then scroll down and give it a border. Let's do a red border, a border width of 3 pixels, and the radius we just increase by a bunch to make a tiny little circle. Now let's save this and close the UI builder. Now that we've created our UI for the waypoint marker, it's time to bring it on the screen. First, we go to our waypoint object, which is this object back here, and create a new empty game object. On this game object, we add a new component, UI document. Right now, it's telling us that it's missing a panel settings right here. So we go over and create one. Under Create, UI Toolkit, Panel Settings Asset. And just keep the defaults for now. Then we go over to our waypoint and add the panel settings there. And finally, we take our waypoint UI and put it under Source Assets. And as you can see, our UI already appears on the screen. The next step is to move it using floating UI. For this, we add another component called floating UI settings. And just by adding this component, you can see it already moved where it should be. And if I move the camera right now, you will see it will already follow the object in the back. Also, it will not be blocked by something in front of it. So this is exactly what we wanted to achieve. Nice. Let's do the health bar next. First, we create the UI for the health bar. Go to Create, UI Toolkit, then UI Document. Call it health bar. Then we open it in UI Builder. We go to Project, Floating UI, and create a floating UI visual element. Then we will go over here and give it a size, like this. And also, we will give it a background color. Now we go here, create a new visual element as a child to this one. Then we go over here and give it a size of 50% in width, and 100% in height. And go here and give it a green color. This already looks like a health bar. Let's save this and close UI Builder. Now that we've got our health bar UI, it's time to bring it on the screen. Go to Capsule, create empty, and name it health bar. Then we add a component, UI document, and link our panel settings here. And finally, we link the health bar as well. As you can see, it's already appearing on the screen. Now let's make it move using floating UI. We add another component, floating UI settings, and the UI will already position itself over the capsule. Now if I move the capsule, the UI will move with it. But it's not positioned correctly. It should be floating above the capsule, not in front of it. To achieve this, we can go to this section in the inspector. This is all about changing and adjusting the UI positioning. There are a bunch of options, which we will use just one for now. But you can experiment around with them, and they are useful for special scenarios. In this scenario, we will just increase the offset in camera space, which will pretty much make sure that this UI is not following the center of the capsule, but a position above the capsule. You can see if I increase Y, the UI will move up. Alright, now we have pretty much what we wanted to achieve, but there's one thing missing. If I move the capsule over, you can see the health bar is still visible. We don't want that. We want to hide it. The capsule is fully occluded. To achieve that, we need to create something called the visibility box. On our capsule game object, we go down and create a new component, visibility box. This adds a box in 3D space that floating UI can check for occlusion. You can see this. We go to Scene and go to our capsule. It's the purple box here in the middle. Just adding it here does nothing. We have to link it in the floating UI inspector. We go over to our health bar and then scroll down to a section that looks like this. This section is all about telling floating UI to perform some checks each frame and modify or hide the UI depending on the result of those checks. First, we activate the checks. And then we tell floating UI to control the visibility of the UI depending on the result of those checks. As you can see here, the current check result is false, meaning the UI is not hidden. When we scroll down, we can see the individual checks that floating UI can perform. These 4. You can have a look at them more closely later. For now, the only check we need is the 4th one. It is checking if a visibility box is completely occluded, and if so, makes the UI invisible. Here we link the visibility box. We can do that by selecting our capsule and dragging it over here. Now the UI is hidden. But if I move the capsule back from its cover, it's revealed again. So that's what we wanted to achieve with our floating health bar. Lastly, let's implement the floating text label. Down here, you can see I created the label in an image editing program and just imported an image file here. First step is to create a UI again. We go to Create, UI Toolkit, UI document. Call it label. Then we open the label in the UI builder. First, we go to Project, Floating UI, and create a floating UI visual element. Then back here and create an empty visual element as a child to this one. Alright, select the visual element, and go over here and set its size. This is 100 by 100 pixels. Then we scroll down, give it a background image, which is going to be our label. Perfect. Now we save and exit UI builder. Now we want to make the label visible in our scene. We go to Capsule and create a new empty game object, add a UI document component, link our panel settings, and then finally add our label right here. And it appears on the screen. Then we add a floating UI settings component, and it's automatically positioned now to follow the capsule. But it's totally in the wrong place. For this kind of UI, we want the end of this line to be precisely positioned somewhere on the capsule. In order to change the position, we go to Label and then to the Position section in the inspector. This time we're going to use the UI anchor. The UI anchor is a position within the UI that is placed on the 3D position. Right now, the UI anchor is in the center. But we don't care about the center of our UI being positioned somewhere. We want the top left corner of our UI to be positioned somewhere. If I change the anchor to 0 and 0, we can see that the anchor in the UI is now in the top left corner, which means the top left corner of our UI is placed on the capsule center. That's already getting us close, but we want to have this not point to the center of the capsule, but instead to the bottom of the capsule. For this, we can use the offset in local space. This is an offset applied relative to the capsule's coordinate system. So if we decrease this value, essentially we move the 3D position that is going to be tracked by floating UI. Now, if we rotate the capsule, you can see that the arrow is always pointing to the bottom of the capsule. Alright, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. See you around.